think.
Brilliant. Okay, so we're good to go. Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
Brilliant. Monique, it's so lovely for you and I to be chatting today. So I'm going to say, first of all, say massive thanks to Lumity for giving us the opportunity to be on their platform and to share our passion, which is supporting women in midlife through fantastic information. Now, I think the first thing that's probably sensible for you and I to do is to introduce ourselves and to say how we know each other and what we're doing. So if I start and say, so I'm Dr. Katie Armstrong, I'm a GP, and I specialise in women's health and menopause medicine and run a private women's health clinic, Clinic 51. And we know each other through my clinic. But Monique, amazing Monique Eastwood, tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Katie. Yes, it is an absolute privilege to be able to talk on Lumity's platform. I'm very passionate about helping women. Being nearly 57 in 2 months' time myself, and as you know, my hormonal journey has been quite a rocky one of a woman my age. So you are my doctor. You help me with information, education, and to put a plan in action. So yeah, I'm Monique Eastwood. I've created a method of training through my life, 30 years of training women and men. And it's based on dance, movement, really Pilates, core, understanding your body and how it should move in a functional way. That's really been my ethos going forward.
So we thought over the next sort of 15 to 20 minutes that we would just have a chat and share some of the things that we've learnt as we speak to clients, as you know, you and I ourselves have been through our own menopause journey. And I think that it's really fair to say that both of us are here today because of the journey that we've had with our own hormones, and because both of us understand the huge impact that those hormones can have, even when you are otherwise looking after yourself. And, you know, my journey has been as a GP and women's health expert. You know, I thought I knew what was going to be happening to my body. And in fact, it took me sitting in a lecture theatre at the British Menopause Society, listening to a lecture on sleep, to have a light bulb moment and go, oh my goodness, that's what's going on with me. I'm perimenopausal. And from that point, I thought, if I couldn't put these pieces together, how does, you know, a normal woman juggling everything that we're juggling in midlife begin to put these pieces together? And it also made me realize how, in terms of the general medical profession, actually, I mean, I'd had so little menopause training, and it is hard as a GP because you are jack of all trades and master of none, but then you might go to a gynecologist, and actually gynecologists are surgeons, so they're not necessarily trained in menopause either. So it can be hard finding people who've got the right expert knowledge, and thank goodness things have really improved. But my passion started from, you know, that kind of discovery, both from myself, but then as a doctor and as a clinician, and then beginning to put in place simple things into my practice, making such a huge difference to women. And my, you know, I guess the core for me all the way through has been knowledge. Knowledge of how your body works is power. If you can understand your body, then that will help you to understand what's going on. And then that becomes much less scary. And then you're going to make the right decisions for yourself. So from your point of view, you know, well, I do know from your point of view that that's exactly where you've been as well. That kind of, you know, you work very hard to support other women, but you push your own body a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And actually, I think that meant that your resilience to be able to cope with that hormonal change was actually maybe a bit reduced.
Well, Katie, you're absolutely right, because you think that you can carry on the same way that you've always carried on, and it creeps up on you. And it's really important to realize that we all know everybody's journey is going to be a different journey. So I found that it was very difficult for me to always find somebody that was going through the same journey as me. And it definitely depended on how much stress I had at that time. And the more stress I put on myself, and the more I was doing the exercise regime I have as a teacher, my sleep was affected, my anxiety was higher, all sorts of symptoms that people mention now was just exacerbated and awful. And that's what seeked me to talk to you. And you know how reluctant I was because of all the bad press about putting any hormones in my body. Even though we mostly are on hormones during our young years, even though we make those hormones in our young years, we pile even more chemical hormones into us to stop us falling pregnant. Yet we were kind of reluctant to replace the hormones as we get older to a more natural format. So, I mean, that you explained to me. So the education for me was lacking. And all the clients that I have my age are also, they always seem surprised when I share things, and I'm sure you feel the same when you meet women my age. We really did not have that education or the knowledge. We just had that scary sort of news about don't touch HRT, so you can't be supported, just battle through this. And my journey being a stressy teacher with all this workload I had to just look at my life and think about what advice I was giving to other women my age on exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle choices. I think that's where things changed for me.
I mean, I think there's so much to pack in what you've said. And I think the first thing I'm going to say is that, you know, what I see more than anything in the clinic is how much every single woman is an individual in terms of menopause, and whether she's going to experience the worst symptoms as her ovaries are shutting down, from her sort of late 30s, early 40s, when hormones are fluctuating, or whether she's going to really suffer when her hormones have dropped, when her ovaries have stopped working, or indeed whether, you know, some women really won't have particular symptoms, but actually what happens to all of us is that our ovaries are going to run out of eggs, and it is the eggs in our ovaries that produce the majority of hormones, certainly estrogen and progesterone. So for all of us, when our ovaries have stopped working, we lose 90% of our body's estrogen, almost all of our body's progesterone, and about a third of our body's testosterone. And that has a major impact on our long-term health. It has a major impact on our bones. It has a major impact on our cardiovascular system. It impacts our muscles. It impacts our skin and the amounts of collagen. Our brain, I mean, impacts throughout our body, and that's going to happen to all of us. So, you know, I'd say to my patients that your menopause is as individual as you are. You can look around a room and everyone will experience it differently. We have hormone receptors all over our body, and that means that, you know, any symptom can be caused by menopause, but it also means that we're going to experience it differently. And it also means that some symptoms may not be caused by menopause. So I think at the moment it feels like we've gone from a time where it was so not talked about. And you're so right, that idea of, you know, I think particularly in the UK, we have this sort of, you know, first of all, let's just pretend it's not happening. And then if we acknowledge that it's happening, it's stiff upper lip. And then if all else really fails, we make a joke about it. Like, you know, actually, we've had this climate of fear, and that existed within health professionals as well as the general public. And now all of a sudden in the last few years, we've had, you know, you can't open a newspaper, turn on the radio without someone talking about menopause. And whilst I massively welcome that, you know, we need to be talking about things, I think actually it's almost meant that there's so much information out there, it's hard to see the wood for the trees. There's perhaps a bit of an idea of, you know, oh, you just take HRT and that's a silver bullet, or that every woman should need to be on HRT. And I think what you and I see is women as individuals. And the most important thing for me is that people understand this hormone change that's happening in their body. They understand when symptoms may be being caused by hormones, because sometimes just that knowledge that you're not going mad, that you've not got some other horrible underlying disease, is, you know, is all you need.
It's comforting. You can get on and go. You just need, exactly. And I do that's important, because your brain as well, you start forgetting things and you start to think the worst. And I mean, that's really important as a teacher, and I'm sure as a clinician as well. You need to remember things.
Well, we know, I mean, and if I think about what brings women to my clinic, I mean, I think, classically, even my colleagues will say, oh, do you just spend all day talking to hot, sweaty women? And actually, and I'm saying, whilst if you have horrendous hot flushes and night sweats, it can absolutely dominate your life. That probably is the minority of women, not the majority of women. 1 in 5 women will never get a hot flush or night sweat.
Amazing.
The majority of women will get some temperature regulation issues, but actually a lot of women will be able to cope with that. And what they can't cope with are the things that really affect quality of life. And as you were saying, brain fog, cognitive impairment is absolutely one of those. So we have loads of estrogen receptors in our hippocampus, which is the memory part of our brain. And we know that menopausal women have impaired short-term memory and impaired word finding. And I think if whatever you're doing in life, whether that be in a social situation or a work situation, that's really difficult. For me, I remember sitting as a GP, in front of my computer screen, going to prescribe some antibiotics for someone with a urinary tract infection, antibiotics that I have prescribed like hundreds of thousands of times. I couldn't remember the name of the antibiotic. I had to Google it, like commonly used antibiotic for urinary tract infections. And at that point, I thought, I don't know if I'm safe doing this job. I knew what was wrong with the lady. I knew how to treat her. I knew the dose of the antibiotic. It was just the name.
So that your brain you start to feel like you're losing power. So you start to lose confidence. And this is a lot of things I see with
confidence and self-esteem can go through the floor. I think if that's combined with a lack of sleep, so estrogen is really important to take us between sleep cycles. So classically in perimenopause and menopause, we'll see women able to get to sleep, but then they'll wake in the early hours of the morning. Then they might feel hot. Then they might need a pee. Then they start worrying. And at those times, that kind of the cognitive impairment, which has been frustrating during the day, might make you retreat from things, not go for the new job, avoid social situations, feel crap about yourself, then becomes in the middle of the night, but oh my goodness, maybe I've got early onset dementia. And then that begins to spiral. And particularly because many of us will be looking after elderly parents who might have dementia. And actually, in some ways, the symptoms are very similar. But actually, the thing with perimenopausal and menopausal brain fog is that you sort of get it and it stays stable. And it often improves once your hormones have stopped fluctuating. It doesn't improve for all women. Dementia is a progressive degenerative disorder. It gets worse and it affects your ability to function and do daily tasks. So whilst we can all laugh and say, I put my car keys in the fridge, that's fine. But if you suddenly find yourself, you've driven somewhere that you drive all the time, you find yourself there and think, I actually don't know where I am. That isn't normal.
No.
But actually word finding difficulties, short-term memory difficulties are normal. And I always say with menopause, it's the gift that keeps on giving, is that you can get into this negative spiral. So you've got cognitive impairment, you're not sleeping because you're not sleeping, your cognitive impairment is worse. You've then got this kind of low-level anxiety going on. And it may be the first time in your life that you've ever experienced anxiety. I've got patients who said, I didn't understand my friends. I thought that they were kind of a bit weak and watery. And then I suddenly couldn't go to Tesco's anymore because I was frightened about not being able to park the car, or I stopped traveling for work because I couldn't cope with it, or I couldn't drive in the dark, or I'm suddenly paranoid about my children in a way that I've never been before.
You did right, because if you're not that kind of person, which I definitely wasn't that kind of person, the anxiety is the worry, because then I see people start to shy away from life. And especially, my age, I've lost a lot of friends that I know have started to, just shy away from things. So my biggest job as a teacher or trainer is to keep people motivated, even when they're tired and they just can't show up, or they just haven't slept, or they just don't have the confidence, or their anxiety is out of control. It's like, how do I keep them showing up, even for a strength training class where it requires energy, I mean, I'm not even talking of a HIIT class where, I mean, if you've got your hormones sorted and you're feeling strong and you're feeling like you can do that, that's the another project. But I'm saying, if you just can't even imagine showing up because you're so exhausted, how do I get people to maintain that? Otherwise, it is a downward spiral at this age. You lose muscle, your bone density, it gets weaker, you know, your heart and lung capacity, you're not firing that up, your metabolic rate's going, everything is sort of like you're losing because you're just so anxious and so tired. So rather than the negativity, I'm trying to put back that positivity.
And I was going to say, and what we, and the, you know, in a way we can talk and it can feel like, you know, that kind of doom and gloom, all this stuff, like life shrinking down. The other side of that is this virtual circle that we can create. And actually,
oh, I lost you, Katie.
Women,
I lost you there for a second.
So
what did you say?
I just said that we can create a virtuous cycle, and if as women we can support through this, as you say, you know, sometimes it isn't all about our strong will. Sometimes we need, you know, that other person to hold our hand. But you know, when we look at the evidence of what actually helps, what helps us to manage our symptoms, and what helps us to thrive in terms of, you know, going into this next period of our life, and let's hope we've got 30 plus years as strong, healthy, well individuals. You know, actually the building blocks are what we need of all of life, but they are they're not hard to say, they're hard to do. But you know, we need to eat really well, we need to exercise, our bodies need to move. And actually I think both you and I would say, however you do it, just move.
Do it.
But actually this is the time that you can step into your strength. This is the time that, you know, the exercise your body needs is not the same as the exercise your body needed when it was 20 or 30. You can't get away with, you know, just going, you know, I've not done any exercise at all, I'm going to jump in and go,
that class,
you know,
and this class tomorrow, then that class. And you need to really think about what your week's going to be like, so you're not finished or exhausted or completely drained of energy by the end of it, but you've done things that are really important for your bones and your muscles, because muscles are vital.
Exactly. And you and I are both so passionate about, you know, in terms of keeping our bodies healthy and well, maintaining our bone density, keeping our balance, but also, you know, in terms of how beneficial that exercise is for our cardiovascular health, for our gut microbiome. Exercise improves your gut microbiome. For reducing levels of inflammation, and inflammation of course is one of the trigger points for cancer, for protecting us from dementia, for helping us to sleep well. So, you know, I'm going to go on to my third thing, which is really easy for us as busy women, fitting so much in.
What did you say? Sorry, Katie, I lost you again there. What was the third thing?
So sleep and rest. I was talking about, and saying that it's so easy for us as busy women. You know, the easiest thing is to cut an hour off our sleep, isn't it? Like, well, just you know, that's okay, I can do without that. I think I certainly always have in my mind, you know, like Maggie Thatcher's 4 hours, that'll be fine.
Oh my goodness.
You know, an adult woman needs on average 7 to 8 hours sleep a night for her brain. You know, sleep is such an active time for our brain. Sleep is where our brain lays down memories. It's where our brain does a deep clean. It's where we stabilize our emotions. It's where we get rid of our cortisol level. It's where we regulate our hunger hormones. So much happens in sleep. It's so important, and we know the link between sleep and dementia is very strongly proven. Again, I think about my Maggie Thatcher thing and think, oh, hang on, there was that link there. So I'm going to say, you know, nutrition, exercise. We'll come back and talk more. Sleep, then looking after our mental health and reducing cortisol levels. And again, this is how all of these things will feed into each other, because of course exercise is such an amazing way for us to manage cortisol levels, but so is just connecting with other women, you know, smiling, laughing. That brilliant study that said if you put a pencil in your mouth, turning up the edge of your mouth, that your brain thinks you're happy, and that reduces cortisol levels. So, you know, we have so much power in our own body. But then we get to number 5, which is sometimes we're either doing all of those things and we're still feeling completely out. This is a major physiological change in our body. You know, these hormones, you know, we've got these hormone structures in every cell in our body, and suddenly we're going on this journey of roller coaster and then dropping hormone levels. You know, this is a major physiological change. And, you know, as you saw and as I saw, however much you're trying to support your life, sometimes you do need to get in there and say, right, how do I balance my hormones? And then how do I do it safely? And sometimes there's a quid pro quo that, you know, in doing that, you're then able to go, right, I can get my head around I no longer need to think, all I can think about is lying on the sofa with a glass of wine and a bar of chocolate because I'm feeling so awful. Actually begin to feel better. And then you can think about getting out there. And of course, when we worry about HRT, we worry about breast cancer. And in fact, we know with breast cancer that there are so many modifiable risk factors for breast cancer. So reducing alcohol, stopping smoking, exercise reduces your risk of breast cancer, losing weight. All of those things are incredibly powerful modifiable risk factors. And having a glass of wine every night is the same risk as taking combined. So having a glass of wine every night is the same risk as taking HRT. So to change the filter through which we see risk.
Yes.
But you know, my passion is I want women to understand what safe HRT is, and for the right women who are really struggling to be able to be empowered to take, you know, body identical natural HRT that suits them. But this is not instead of, there is no silver bullets here. This is as well as all those other things, and you're not going to feel well and thrive unless you're doing all the other things.
No, you're absolutely right.
And I think that's where you and I connect so much, isn't it?
And no, it isn't. You know that I was quite fearful of taking anything in, you know, that I didn't have enough knowledge about. But you've filled my head with knowledge, and that's why my retreats with you have been such a fantastic thing to do, because all the women that come away from them are like, we did not know this. This is the education is so vital. I mean, I ate well. I really did eat well. And no matter how many lentils I ate or whatever I was told to do, or I could lie there in bed and try and sleep, but it just wasn't happening. So, you know, you try your very best. I exercise. I cut down on, you know, doing long endurance like runs and things like that really spiked my cortisol. So I think I tried everything, and then I needed that extra support and help. And that's where now I'm in this place where I feel that I can assist people, and I do have a busy life, and thank goodness for that assistance, because I don't think I would be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't had that help. And this is the way I'm going now to my clients of my age, trying to help them lift weights, but I mean, please lift them safely. You know, don't just throw them above your head. I've just seen so many now. It's like everybody's telling you to lift heavy, and I'm just thinking, technique, please keep your technique.
Absolutely, so important.
Don't just throw those weights above your head because you're told to lift heavy. You've got to build, like anything, you've got to build yourself slowly to that place. And it's a slow process. You know, put in new ways of eating, nutrition, all these things. Don't have to do it right now, you know, stop everything that you were doing and start a new sort of life, but just slowly implement these new changes so that your aging becomes a lot easier. Like, you know, my sessions have got all of it.
It's this bit of us about being about joy and support and thriving, and it isn't that kind of self-flagellation of, I know I should be lifting weights, I know I should not have eaten that bit of refined sugar, I know, like all of these other things that we put in now and go, so, you know, if only I was doing that, life would be feeling better. You know, it's easy to say and it can be hard to do. That's why we need support and community. That's why, you know, what you do counts, not what you don't do. So it is better to feel positive and to do a small amount, you know, just using the weight of your own body is better.
Is
You know,
weight
you and I
bearing.
both think, you know, getting out, having a walk, just move yourself
Moving in
and
nature. Yeah.
and do it gradually, and do it in a community. You know, I think is those messages are so important. And for me, that sense of we are all individuals. I don't think that we should see hormone replacement therapy either as an elixir of youth or as a poison. I think we should see it as something that needs careful individual consideration, but not something to be scared of either. Because, you know, I, like you, you know, sleep was my nemesis. I just couldn't sleep. And that colors everything in life,
It does,
doesn't
because
it? And
you just can't function. You don't have that same energy. And you know, I do, when clients come into my sessions, if I'm on a private session, or even if they're on my app, they'll say, I had a really bad night last night. I went, well, then don't do the jumps, go into more of a moderate state, do a lower impact version of today. And when you're feeling great again, then you can put that good stress on your body, that short-term stress, which is going to recover, repair. You, with the HIIT sessions, a short 30 minutes, you're maintaining your muscle. You do not want to lose muscle at this age. That's why your protein, when you're eating, I mean, it doesn't have to be animal protein. It can be plant, whatever protein you love, but eat protein with every meal. You know that.
Absolutely.
And that's going to keep you fuller longer. It's you know, your insulin's all over the place as well when your metabolic rate slows down. So it's a gradual process with some women, I think, that just it gets on top of them, and then it's been too many years, and then they want to fix it all in 1 minute. And it's you have to be patient, and you have to put small little things in place, and really be patient with yourself. And I mean, Lumity's obviously, they've been amazing to allow this platform for us both to talk on, because I know a lot of their clients are sort of in their 40s and 50s. And I've supplemented with their vitamins at the moment. I mean, I know a healthy diet is what we all should be thinking of, but as a personal trainer, that's really a busy personal trainer, I felt a lot better having that extra support, as I have had with my natural HRT, that's got me to this nearly 57 years old, and in this job that I've got a lot going on. And I really want to carry on doing this and helping people, and women of my age and sort of younger, to prepare them for this next stage and going forward.
And again, I mean, I just think we need to meet ourselves where we're at, don't we? So, you know, I'm always going to say that I think food is the best source of the vitamins and minerals that your body needs. That's how our body is designed, to take in vitamins and minerals and nutrients. There are some, particularly in the UK, that are more difficult. For example, vitamin D, that we just can't get enough of.
No.
We just don't have enough sunshine. There is some, you know, we don't have particularly mineral-rich soil, so it's actually quite hard to get some things like magnesium as we get older and our gut gets less good at absorbing things. Omega-3, if we love oily fish, fantastic, but actually practically many of us don't have enough time to have enough omega in our diet. And so I think, you know, it is sensible to say, you know, what you want to work towards is, you know, as little processed food as possible, having 30 different kinds of plant in your diet every week. But sometimes all of us are going to just go, like, I know what I should be doing, and actually, this is my life this week. You know, you and I are both hugely busy running our businesses. And so sometimes we do need extra help and support. And I think the key there is that, you know, if you're going to take supplements, make sure you take a supplement that is designed, that is really high quality and is designed
for your age,
you.
really. Yes, exactly.
Exactly that. You know, and I say it's like all of these.
I lost you again.
It has to be.
Sorry, Katie, I lost you again.
We get into a very purist mentality of it has to be all this or it has to be that. And I think both you and I would say is that this is about, because this is not about I'm going to be amazing for a year. This is about how I'm going to live my life. And it's not about things that have to be hard work. It's about, you know, it really is about thriving. So, you know, I think that's probably both of our messages. You know, let's do this proportionately, kindly. Let's be kind to ourselves, but let's not also think, like, there's no way in my life at the moment that I could even think about doing any of those things because it's all too much. You know, actually just those small things, a bit of movement every day, checking in with yourself, mindful moment when you make a cup of tea, a smile when you might have otherwise had a frown, you know, not deciding to do that Insta scroll at 11 o'clock at night, just putting the phone to one side and prioritizing being able to go and rest in bed, that matters. And then, you know, maybe at another time you and I can come back and talk in more detail about, you know, HRT and different types of HRT and how we manage that. But hopefully what we've been able to do with a few internet connection issues is give women that kind of basis to know that this is a natural phenomenon that's going to happen in your body. And from your early 30s, your ovaries shut down. It takes most women 10 to 15 years for their ovaries to shut down. And when their ovaries have shut down, then they've got low hormone levels for the rest of their lives. But this is a time that you can thrive through. And there are no silver bullets, but it's about, you know, women supporting women together and
being consistent. I feel the consistency in putting certain habits in place now, which, okay, I am a very disciplined person. I admit it, I am, from my years of being a ballerina. And I know it's very difficult because that's what I do as a job. I motivate people, but try and put some, because it'll only make you feel so much better at this stage and age. Don't think you can live like you did in your early 40s and your 30s. It's not going to be the same. Put these habits in place. You do need to keep your muscle. You do need your cardiovascular system to be healthy and strong. You do need your bones to be strong. You have to have your brain firing because it's required from us. So put these little things in place.
And the more we use our brain, learn, be curious, learn, because that, your brain has the most amazing ability to continue to adapt and grow, but only if you continue to stimulate it. But I completely agree. And, you know, and I always say to women, you know, once you lose estrogen, you just have to work that bit harder. You can't get away with what you could in your 20s and 30s. And so just having the power of that knowledge is really important. Because we do need to look after ourselves. But again, if you're struggling to motivate yourself, do it with somebody else. Get someone to hold your hand. You know, this, and it doesn't.
Go out in the fresh air for a walk. That's something. If I'm feeling negative, I mean, I'm a human being. If I feel negative and I've had a hard day, I'll even if I don't want to, I'll put on my shoes and I'll march out there and I'll just feel instantly better because I'm out. I walk fast. I think walking fast really has a better effect on your body. Push yourself into the sort of the elements, and then come back and you know, and just sort of put some healthy things in place so that you know that you're not going to struggle with the next few years that are ahead of you. And also it's empowering because you don't want to shy away and disappear now. If anything, this has got to be our moment.
I mean, we have so much to give society. You know, we have the wisdom of our years. We have so much life experience, and, you know, and we don't need to let hormones come in and stymie all of this. This can be something, again, you know, in different cultures, this is something that's viewed very, very positively. But, you know, I think it does feel like our time to stand up and go, you know, look at how amazing life can be at this age. But it does take a little bit of work, and your body tells you that. So your body tells you when you're postmenopausal that, you know, feel blooming awful if you've had a drink, you can't sleep, you know, your hot flushes and sweats get worse. Your body, you know, your body is shouting out to you, but we've got so good at ignoring those signals for our body, from just pushing it and just carrying on. And, you know, and you and I have had this conversation before. I'm just like, okay, we need to listen to our bodies. And actually, sometimes we need to just stop and go. Because often I think we can go, well, our body's telling us something, so I'm just going to push even harder to ignore it. And actually, it's that time of going, no, hang on, my body's shouting. My body is shouting, and I'm going to listen. And I'm going to prioritize myself. Because the other thing I always say to patients is we're all so good at prioritizing everybody else, but actually we're no good to anybody else if we're on a heap on the floor. So it's that thing when you're in an aeroplane and they tell you if you're traveling with a young child, you put your own oxygen mask on first. And you do that because you can't look after your child unless you have enough oxygen. And that's what we need to think about, is prioritizing ourselves, not to be selfish, but to be selfless, because unless we look after ourselves, we are going to be in a heap on the floor.
No, that is a really good way to conclude our conversation, I think, because going forward, I really don't, I want to inspire women. I don't want people to think, oh, you know, what does she do? She, you know, she's a fitness trainer, but my job is to motivate and inspire women. And I mean, I am 57 in 2 months' time, so I feel like I'm a bit of an authority on that subject. Absolutely. Because I've been doing it for over 30 years. So I want to continue doing this for the next, I don't know how many years. People say, when you're going to stop? Well, I hope I don't. I hope I continue to do this and bring women along with me on this journey of staying fit, staying strong, staying healthy, staying empowered within your own body, and having the knowledge and education of understanding what's happening to our bodies. But thank you, Katie. Thank you so much for sharing. And we'll do this definitely again, and looking forward to our next retreat together.
Yes, absolutely. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye.